Okay. I want to welcome everyone to the LegendViz Distributor May Refresh Training. I hope everyone's having a good morning, afternoon so far. I think we're going to just jump into it. We'll get started. So I just want to say, again, thank you for all attending today. My name is Evan Syons. I'm TAPCO's product manager for runway, overheight, and blinker sign systems. Today, I'd like to give a refresher on a newer system that we recently launched called LegendViz. I'm hopeful that many of you are aware of this product, but if not, I'm happy to discuss in more detail today. Joining me on this call today is Nick Schmidling, Senior Product Manager at TAPCO, who will be focusing on common objections and how to answer them in regards to the LegendViz system. And also Rob Prosser, who's our Vice President of Sales and Marketing, who will finish off by touching on distributor campaign details. So taking a quick look at our agenda today, a few of the topics I'll be covering are the project background of LegendViz, the design and portfolio of the system, and just a few examples of the system in the field. So you'll actually be able to see the system in action in some of the applications that we've deployed with this system. I want to mention before we get started here, just an FYI that all questions in the chat log will be answered at the end of Nick's portion of this presentation. So I will be starting off the presentation. Nick will be presenting after me. Feel free to put in any questions in the chat, and we will answer those after Nick is completed with his presentation. LegendViz was added to TAPCO's LED enhanced sign portfolio in 2021. Now, as you can see, TAPCO continues to be the leader and innovator of these LED enhanced signs that dates back to 1930. The LED technology back in 1930 was not what we have today. That's for sure. Basically, had a static sign, and they used things like marbles to be able to gain the attention of the driver to prompt an action for them. In 2000, we added LED lights to the perimeter of the static sign, as you see in this middle photo here. It was the first of its kind, and today we are using LEDs to illuminate the actual legend of the sign. And that's what we're going to be talking today when it comes to our LegendViz technology. Through these years, almost a century, we estimate that through our innovation-driven processes, throughout, like I said, these centuries, we've activated roughly about 100,000 signs across the country, which is pretty impressive. So why LegendViz? Why did we create it? What was the need behind LegendViz? What our research in the field showed us was a significant finding that 40% of state and local traffic engineers were seeking improved legend visibility at night. Now, that percentage was based on an internal study done by TAPCO Product Management. Now, below what you're going to see is a couple of examples of what we're talking about and what these engineers are really trying to get across to us. So, and these signs are placed in different angles, such as offset, perpendicular, vertical, and the last one is legend masking. So to go through them, and in the first three, I guess, it's almost impossible to spot that sign. So if you look closely, would you ever know that there's a wrong way system or a wrong way sign or anything that stands out or indicates that there's a sign there and that you need to have an action to stop or you're going the wrong way? There's not, because of low lighting within those regions. Now, the fourth picture, what you'll see is the perimeter LEDs around the sign. What you can't see is the legend is right in between, but it's very difficult to read. So naturally, the driver's eyes will gravitate towards the perimeter instead of the actual legend within. So if you think about that, and what we found in studies is that those amber lights, they tell the driver, they tell them an action is needed, slow down, warning, something is going on. But unless you know what's within the sign, to tell you what action is taken. The sign in these kind of low light applications is very tough to on the driver, and they will potentially not make the right decision in those situations. So due to these findings in our own internal research, we decided to create kind of a best case scenario, you could say, to combat this issue. You know, what would it look like? What technology would be needed? Things of that nature. What we finalized was the following. So it would be a legend-only illumination to combat background contrast, like we saw in that last picture, the fourth picture. It will be made out of a high durability, highway grade aluminum that encompasses the best reflective sheeting in the industry that we source from 3M. And also that it offers, and we'll get into this a little bit in some of these other slides, and that will offer a solar power option when just AC options are not available. And also something that needs to be MUTC compliant, which we will get into that in the next slide here. So when it comes to MUTCD compliance, just a reminder, LegendViz is compliant per MUTCD 2A.07, which is the standard for retro reflectivity and illumination. Again, this slide is just a reminder to everyone. So here's an exploded view of the actual LegendViz system. So the sign. So what you see is the LegendViz sign has a 3M translucent sheeting. This is the image for that on every single sign. The reason this is needed is so that the LED enclosure at the rear of the sign is able to shoot light through the sheeting in order to illuminate the actual legend of the sign. Also, what is featured in this view is the blinker perimeter LEDs that you'll see here. That is featured on a familiar Tapco blinker signs that we already employ in the field today as well. And yes, if you were wondering, LegendViz is patented to Tapco. So what are some of the benefits of this system? I would like to focus on a few. I've listed them all, but a few that I want to focus on are number one, solar and AC powered. In areas in which hooking up AC power to the system is not possible, LegendViz also offers a solar power option. So that just goes to show that if there's a will, there's a way with Tapco. If you do not have access to AC power, there is a solar option that we do offer with LegendViz, and we will find a way to be able to employ these signs in your area. The second is a one laborer installable. So what does that mean? What we've created, what we've engineered these signs to do is be as easy as possible for the installer. So it's as easy as securing the mounting bracket to the pole and installing the sign to the bracket. That's one person. Now, our competitors cannot say that. Typically, it's more of a team effort. With Tapco, it's a one-person install, which that is one of the benefits of this LegendViz system. The third I want to focus on is Operation Failsafe. So if the system were to fail for one reason or another, the customer still has a functioning static sign, right? I'll get into this in a later slide, but just want to let everyone know, if the LED perimeter were to not work or the legend were not to be illuminated, you still have a static sign. And some of these other examples that you see here, without power, some of these signs will not work. It's basically going to be a black box. So if you're familiar with Tapco signs, then the LegendViz will be nothing out of the ordinary as far as the structure. It offers the same familiar, innovative design as other Tapco solutions. The only difference is when it comes to nighttime use. Here's an example of the system at night and during the day. So what we talked about, if there's a failsafe, if the system or if the sign is not illuminated you still have a static sign. So what you're still going to get is a 13-watt top solar cabinet at the top. This is an example of the LegendViz at night, and this is just a static standard traffic sign. So this is what that same LegendViz traffic sign looks like during the day. So again, just because if there was some kind of power outage or something of that nature that the sign is not working correctly, you still have that static sign. Okay, moving on to our current portfolio for our LegendViz offering. So to date, we offer LegendViz in stop, wrong way, and do not enter signs. There are plans to expand this range in the future, and that will be communicated to you at a later date. When it comes to our 13-inch, sorry, 1 second. When it comes to our 30-inch LegendViz stop sign, there are 2 primary variations: legend only illumination, and number 2, legend and perimeter illumination. So the legend only illumination offers a steady illumination of the legend without the perimeter LEDs flashing. Okay, so this legend is readable from 300 feet and visible from 500 feet out. The legend and perimeter variant flashes the LED perimeter lights as well as illuminates the legend as well. So this gives the driver a 1 to 2 mile visibility of the sign. Both variations serve a purpose in close proximity applications such as city. Think about if you're, do you want, if one of these signs are within a suburb or within a city that is close to housing, maybe the LED perimeter is not needed, that just the legend will be enough for those applications or for those areas. When it comes to legend and perimeter illumination, if you're in rural areas, country roads, whatever it might be, you might want the flashing and also that legend illuminated as well. Again, here's some more information on the illumination activation options between the LegendViz signs. It's the LegendViz is designed to work independently. So meaning the legend and perimeter can work in conjunction with each other or completely separate. We can configure the system to fit the customer's needs. So it could be dawn to dusk. It could be we want the flashing LEDs to be, in a school or in a school zone. We want those LEDs to be prevalent, but at night we don't want them. Things of that nature. We can configure these systems to meet the need of the customer. Just a couple of different examples I wanted to show you. So this is an offset, couple offset images. So the before, this is what the same intersection here, minimal sign legibility until driving in the improper direction. That's what that sign is right there. That's a wrong way. The after is, you can actually see the legend on the sign is illuminated to let wrong way drivers know that, and give them more advance of that this is a wrong, and give them more sight that you are going the wrong way. So this is just an example of what it looks like at night. This is an example from Colorado that I wanted to show you. So again, legend legibility. Are they able to see the signs? That's why we created LegendViz. Before minimal sign legibility, again, there was a presence of traditional LED warnings. After we were done with this project, this is what it looked like, the enhanced legend visibility and legibility. So they saw in what I premised to before, they might see the flashing perimeter LEDs, but now they're actually seeing what the action they need to take. If it's a wrong way, a stop sign, things of that nature. Here's a map of our current LegendViz deployments in the US. So if you're in a state that needs APL approval, please reach out to me. We have approvals in the states that are shown right there in red. As you can see, we're growing with these APLs, and it is APL approved. So just if you do need that assistance from TAPCO, please reach out to myself and the company, and we can help you with that. And if you're in a state that doesn't need APL, still reach out to me. We'll start to build a case, but know that those options are available. And it's one of those things. If you're familiar with APL, which I think most people are, to get this APL approved was a very big deal for TAPCO. So just know it is APL approved. Reach out if you have any questions when it comes to that. And with that, I'm going to send it over to Nick Schmidley. I want to thank you for your time today. Again, this is, if you have any questions, put them in the chat log. And then at the end of Nick's session, we will go through the questions and answer those for you. So thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Evan. So like Evan mentioned, I'm going to be walking you guys through here today some of the common objections and rebuttals that I want to arm you with. So LegendViz has been in the market now for coming up on a year. So we have some good insight as to what are some of the common objections. Would love to hear in the chat if there's more objections that you faced. Really to show you how we're navigating these conversations, right? This industry is riddled with engineers that think they know the right way to deploy every single technology, especially those that are new. So want you to arm you with some different ideas on how to really remediate and reassure some of those engineers that are speculative of the new technology. So to start and kick that off, I want to show you the versatility of LegendViz. So it's pretty cool. What you see pictured here, some wins that we've had that were worth noting. So the first one, Oklahoma DOT. This was with some wrong-way systems. They have 4 ramps. They're going to be deploying additional ramps here shortly. And what's pretty cool is that they got LegendViz sign spec'd into the design standard. Quite literally, it says LegendViz sign. You almost never see that in today's industry where they're actually going to call out a technology. Sometimes you'll see blinker sign spec'd in, right, or maybe blink link. But it's far and few between. But Oklahoma has gone above and beyond and recognized that the LegendViz technology works. To the point where they've actually written into their design standard the LegendViz sign. So that's really cool. Kudos to the Oklahoma DOT team on our side down there that made that happen. Another one is a Chevron refinery plant in Texas. This one is really cool for 2 reasons. One, the customer was using a low-cost, low-quality competitor solution for just the traditional perimeter LEDs, LED lighting solutions. You can Google their website. They're a $1,000 piece of product. And we converted that customer, this Chevron being the gas company, oil and gas, to the LegendViz sign. So not only did we deploy LegendViz technology in a really cool private application or refinery plant, we also converted that customer from a low-cost competitor to the top value, highest value product in the industry right now for LED enhanced signage, which is LegendViz. So that was really cool for 2 reasons. So good job to the team down there in Texas that made that happen. And then up in Canada, if Sherry is on the call from Stinson, Sherry made this happen up in Canada, a mining operation, which is really cool to see LegendViz deployed in a mining pit. So once again, this just shows you the versatility on the roads, private application, inside of a mining pit. We stop a lot of times in our vehicles. Anytime that we're having an issue with safety and compliance of stopping, LegendViz is on the table and should be considered in their investment conversation. So really cool to see the versatility of LegendViz. So the first objection I'm going to talk to you about is price, right? This thing's really expensive. It's $500 more. Mind you, we are amidst in national record inflation, but nonetheless, the price, we haven't changed the pricing on LegendViz, so it's the same as when we launched it last July. So the thing I want to remind you guys of when you're talking to customers about the price of LegendViz is immediately when you hear about price, talk around it, talk away from it, right? It's really easy to say something's too expensive if you don't understand the value. So the first thing to consider is that LegendViz is not needed for every location. While I'd love to say that it is, because that'd be really cool for the deployment and onboarding of the technology across the nation, it's not the case, right? So I understand that. Showing the customers our portfolio. No one else in this industry in terms of LED enhanced signage has this larger portfolio that we have here at TAPCO. You can see that picture at the right. From the indoor signs for, think of your forklift scenario, to traditional blinker signs. Customers that need a little bit more autonomy. Let's think of your northern states, Canada, Maine, Wisconsin. Here are some good examples, right? Upgrade that solar package from the tube to 13-watt top of pole to get, more battery life. And then LegendViz. And there's two versions of LegendViz, so I don't want to lose sight of that. Evan touched on that. You have the traffic sign without perimeter LEDs, and then the blinker sign with perimeter LEDs, right? So you have a good, better, best. Figure out what that customer, where they're at in their journey. Is this their first time deploying LED enhanced signs? Yeah, it'd be cool to get them adopted on LegendViz, but that might be an extreme jump. And the general notion in the industry is do as much as possible with the least amount of cost, right? So that's just a general mentality that's ingrained in them. So knowing where they're at in their journey about what is the severity of the problem that they're seeking to solve, you can really consultate them on the proper configuration, right? So when you're talking about LegendViz, talk about the strategic design. Evan alluded to that, right? The installation simplicity. This simplicity can't be overstated. The ability for a person to, by him or herself, to install this device in under 30 minutes with a solar package and walk away with an operational is outstanding. We designed it specifically to achieve that, and we did just that. The warranty too, we have the 3-5-10, so 3-year battery, 5-year product workmanship, 10-year for the solar panel. It's one of the best, if not the best in the industry, right? So, there's also the concern about, hey, this thing costs a lot up front. What's it going to cost me when it breaks? Well, we have the best in the warranty, best in class warranty in the industry. And oh, by the way, we also have preventive maintenance contracts. So if someone is deploying at scale, dozens or hundreds of these signs across their corridor, district, region, state, that's something that we can even look into a preventive maintenance contract to make sure that they are up and operational, right? So think about that. And then it is MUTC compliant and made in the USA. So all that funding, the billions of dollars that are coming down the pike, the BABA, buy and build and make in America, these devices are made here up the road at 51st in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So there's a value in that. So the takeaway, the LegendViz technology is quantifiably safer than traditional sign technologies. I'll show you some summaries of these different studies that we've amassed in the last year. But right size for your customers' needs. What's their problem? What have they tried previously? What are they looking to try next, right? Like I said, as much as I'd love to see a LegendViz at every location, I know that's not the case. Size objection. This one is also surfacing. Of course, Murphy's Law, we're going to roll this out with certain sizes. And of course, the first question we get asked is, well, what about these other sizes, right? So these signs have been third-party tested by TTI. I'll touch on that coming up here. On the right, I did screenshot out of the MUTCD where they detailed the minimum size requirement. So you can see a little bit hard to read, a little bit grainy there, but the minimum size for, I just selected a stop sign here for sake of the conversation, is a 30 by 30. So that means that at minimum on the roads per the MUTCD, you need to deploy a 30 by 30 stop sign, right? And then down below, it quite literally says engineering judgment may be used to determine if other sizes are appropriate, right? Keyword, engineering judgment. We can make our recommendation as providers of technologies about what the alteration could be, but it's up to an engineer to assess and make their judge, right? And one of the things that we've seen is that with the current sizes that were tested, is that we've seen an improvement in the legibility sight distance, right? Over static signs and even blinker signs. So the technology is working. So one of the things I really want you to think about when a customer starts taking you down the rabbit hole of a size objection is at some point, yes, we will have larger sizes, right? But that larger size, and I'm stating the obvious, but just to make sure we're all thinking on the same frequency here, that larger size sign is going to be even more expensive than the 30-inch blinker stop that we offer today for the LegendViz, right? So we've seen that in scenarios where we've tried smaller sizes with customers that were willing to take on that field study and see if they're comfortable with the smaller sign rather than, let's say, their traditional 36-inch. if that is acceptable. And one of the things to keep in mind is that when the engineer tells you that, yeah, well, I only use 36, I can't deviate off that, that's really a great opportunity to talk about, well, that's based on, your static sign rules in your agency. And I'm not saying that that's an easy conversation to navigate and circumvent, but nonetheless, it's not based on LED enhanced technologies that are being used on the road. So the takeaway here, start small. One of the things that we've done is when we talk to these customers that immediately put up the wall, is let's try a few locations to deploy this technology. Let's try 1 or 2 locations and see if it meets your needs, because there's a good chance that it will. And once we achieve that comfort and understanding of, hey, I can get away potentially with a smaller sign because guess what? The Legend is illuminated. That's where we really start to break through that objection of needing the larger sign sizes that are traditionally used for static signs. So start small, work with our team here, identify what kind of pilot parameters we can put together, get them in the field, get it in their hands. I love to see when you get these signs in their hands. The renders, the pictures, none of that does justice. When they get the product in the field, in front of their hands, in front of their engineers, in front of their boss, in front of their motors, that's really where this comes to light, pun intended. Newness objection. I'm not going to belabor through this slide. One of the things that we see oftentimes with engineers in this industry is the risk aversion. I don't want to be the guinea pig, right? The first to try a technology. This isn't new. The MUTCD, which is the one we're operating off of, is from 2009, strategically and specifically states that you can apply Legend illumination to signs. And we did just that, right? We just brought it to market. And these signs have been around from TAPCO for a year. We have them deployed in over 20 states. Evan showed you the 5 states where they've been APL approved, where the states require such. So this isn't necessarily new. We're just actually putting it out on the road. So solar technology has been around for years. LED enhanced technology has been around for years. We're just taking it one step further and applying it to the Legend. So any engineer that is looking at this as being new and that's of concern, talk them through the lack of newness, how this has been around. Lead time objection. So one of the things that we have struggled with, in all transparency team here is, we did launch this product and project through a global pandemic, right? So not only did we, have to deal with that to get it to market, as you're aware, that has also put a burden and issues into supply chains across the globe. And, us here at TAPCO are not able to, navigate away from those situations sometimes. But nonetheless, we have worked with our purchasing and planning teams to reduce the lead times from 8 weeks down to 4 weeks. So I'm talking about just a sign. If you're buying this sign as a part of a system where you're applying sensors or many signs that are connected via radio network, that's going to have your standard larger lead time, the 8 to 12 weeks. But nonetheless, if you're buying standalone signs, solar, AC with the dusk till dawn, 24/7, et cetera, we have reduced that lead time down from 8 to 4 weeks. And one of the things, the takeaway here, continue to share your customers' expectations so we can continue to strive for excellence. I don't know what I don't know. So unless you guys are feeding our team here with the lead time requirements from our customers, we're somewhat operating in the dark, right? We would love to have no lead time, but there's a cost to that, right? So trying to find the right balance for our customers' needs, let me know what that is. So continue to pass along that information as you have. Appreciate it. All right, awesome. This is really, in my opinion, the most exciting part of the conversation. So I'm going to summarize at a high level. This presentation will be made available to you guys here after today's conversation. You can see down below we have hyperlinks to information that is now available, right? And we're going to be rolling out even additional information. So I do ask that you go to the partner portal and download this and use this in your conversation. So anytime you have an objecting engineer or would-be customer, use this data and information because they have to use data to make their budget decisions, right? So data in equals consumption, right? So the first is the TTI third-party testing. This is something that we invested in. It was a healthy investment, and the reason we invested in the third-party testing is we wanted someone else to assess the effectiveness of the technology. And we wanted them to quantify the improvement over static signs and even blinker signs. And what we saw was an improvement, a strong improvement, not only in straight on, but most importantly in the offset configuration. So think of your do not enter, your wrong way, etc. So great results coming out of the TTI third-party testing. That has been available on the partner portal and still will be, so please download that. We also are creating a piece here that summarizes what we're doing with Central Florida Expressway. And what we did there is we deployed 4 signs, signs at 4 of their ramps, both do not enter and wrong way. And what we've seen is positive qualitative feedback from the director himself that's been deploying these signs. And also we've seen 100% driver turnaround rate. These are wrong way systems. So going from the RFBs, which Evan showed, to now the RFBs with the LegendViz sign in between, we've seen 100% turnaround rate, which is outstanding. We are continuing to monitor these 4 locations for a net reduction in wrong way movements, but that study will take some more time. Later this year, we'll be circling back after years worth of data to see if we've seen a reduction in the number of events at these 4 locations since deploying the traffic signs at the 4 locations. Also is Wisconsin DOT. So Wisconsin DOT, we deployed a single do not enter sign at 2 ramp locations here in Milwaukee County near our office. And what we saw was an increase in the duration between wrong way events after deploying a single LegendViz do not enter sign. And we've seen a 38% reduction in wrong way events since deploying these single signs at each ramp. That's outstanding. When you deploy a single sign to see a 40% reduction in wrong way events. And the last piece is the Henderson, Nevada. They tried a LegendViz blinker stop, and they recognize it as another valuable traffic safety tool. So when asking the agency, do you think this technology has merit, is viable, and what do you like about it? The team said that was fairly priced, especially due to the solar feasibility. So as Evan mentioned, the ability for this sign to be deployed in the solar configuration is something that the market alternatives simply cannot offer. Those blank out boards, some of those other alternatives, if they were to do solar, it's a massive solar configuration. Just remember, our configuration for solar deployment is the 13-watt top of pole. So really exciting to see great feedback from the field. So I'll just show you quickly the TTI study. So as I mentioned, we studied the static stop sign, the blinker sign, and then the LegendViz blinker sign. And you'll see that we actually spelled these incorrectly on purpose, and that was to actually quantify that drivers could actually legibly read that sign. So, what they've seen at TTI over the years is that parties that they're, doing the road studies on see a red octagon and they automatically assume, it's a stop sign, right? So that was actually one of the means and ways to actually quantify when they can actually read and decipher the message, was to purposely spell it incorrectly. So really cool to see that technique being deployed by TTI. Here you'll see the increase on the stop configuration, the standard sign over the border sign. That's the blinker sign there in the gray, and then the border plus the legend. So, one of the things to mention here for the traditional blinker sign in the middle, this is the reason why variable dimming is so valuable. If those LEDs are not driven properly, they can actually impede one's ability to actually read the sign. So just remember, the perimeter LEDs aren't enhancing the legibility. They're enhancing the conspicuity, which means you can see something. You can see the sign, but in this study, we were studying the legibility, the ability for one to actually read the sign. So I'm actually not surprised to see that with the traditional blinker sign, the legibility has dropped off, which once again makes the case for why the LegendViz sign there on the right, border plus legend, is very valuable. For the offset here, you'll see this is for the wrong way scenario. You can see that there was an improvement for the offset configuration for the LegendViz blinker sign. Once again, the reason it's so valuable in the offset configuration, that legend illumination has a wide profile. It's about 130, 140 degrees of illumination, a lot different than the perimeter LEDs, which are very specific and narrow. And that's what allows motorists to actually comprehend and decipher a message from an offset configuration. And in this situation, the driver's headlights would not be on that sign. And that's where you can see that, those traditional configurations, the legibility distance is quite small, quite short. There's a qualitative assessment at the end of all the 31 participants. Which sign did you like the most? And you'll see that the LegendViz sign won that competition, right? So lit up letters helped with angled signs. The lit text was clear. And letters lit up helped one to read, right? So great qualitative feedback from the 31 participants at TTI. As I mentioned, the Wisconsin DOT study, here's the picture of the single do not enter sign that was deployed at 2 ramp locations. And as I mentioned, a 38% reduction in wrong way movements. So just that single 30 by 30 square that's illuminated produced a 40% reduction in wrong way movements. So really outstanding results. Here's another shot of that sign from a different angle. The CFX, once again, the 4 wrong way site locations, currently tracking 100% turnaround rate. Nothing's really 100% in today's day and age, but you know, the LegendViz sign through these 4 or 5 months post deployment, we're seeing great turnaround rates. Like I said, we're still tracking to see if there's a reduction in wrong way movements. We need a little bit more time to quantify that statistically, but right now, as far as turnarounds, we're seeing great improvement with the turnaround rate. Here's a picture at the base of the ramp. You'll see the do not enters right in front of you there. And if you squint your eyes a little bit further up the ramp, you can see wrong way signs. They actually had 2 sets. So you have your first set that you can see at the top of the image, and there's actually another set even further up the ramp behind the toll booth. And then the Henderson, Nevada. So one of the scenarios that they had to deal with this installation is, so traditionally they had a blinker stop, which was pretty interesting to see this customer go from blinker stop to LegendViz blinker stop. So that was cool. It was right by City Hall. So, you know, the mayor, parties of greater, of high importance, you know, we're in the vicinity of this system. So that was cool to get their qualitative insight. And if you look, it's a little bit hard to see when you download this presentation, just scale up that top image. There's actually a signalized intersection there in the distance. So what happens, unfortunately, is that motorists are coming to this intersection here in front of us and looking ahead and actually blowing through this intersection. So they've seen an improvement in the safety since deploying the LegendViz blinker stop at this location. So really great results. And like I said, the seamless install was noted and the great value for the price, right? So it does come at a higher price than a blinker sign, but it's still recognized as being favorable and acceptable. So what are we doing next? Just want to give you guys some insight as to some additional content and information to increase your success and improve and sustain your success with selling LegendViz. So first is new distributor sales materials. That's some of the information that I just sent you here. There'll be more to come. Just keep an eye out on our emails and all the information that's loaded to the partner portal. Like I said, today's presentation will be made available. Please use it. Please use this to consider different ways to talk to your customers. If you have questions, reach out to Evan or myself, and we can hop on customer calls and help really get this in the field. Really excited. So there is a sales campaign. Rob and or Amanda will be touching on that here at the end of the call about the Distributor LegendViz sales campaign, what that all entails. I'll leave that under for them. There's going to be updated brochures and literature. As Evan mentioned, we are working on LegendViz, we'll call it 1.5, which is kicking off the project to produce a 36-inch stop sign. So for those that have customers that are adamant that a 36-inch sign is required for the stop scenario, we are kicking off that project, and a solution will be made available for sale later this year. And then the last bullet, I already mentioned it, I'll say it again. Please, please, please call in Evan, call in myself, work with your local account manager to really help you with the conversation that is LegendViz, right? You know, where we stand behind this product, we see it time and time again prove to be successful when we at least get it on the road. This product shows so well in person. So for those that have, you know, the demos that we worked hard to get you, you know, take these to trade shows, make customer calls. I know it's hard to kind of clunk that large demo in your car, you know, over to the customer, especially during this COVID climate. But nonetheless, seeing this sign in person, every time we've shown the Legend illumination in person, we get great feedback. The images, the renders, the videos just don't do justice. And, you know, one step better, if you can get it in the field where the problem areas lie, a lot of opportunity to prove to the user that there's some upside with LegendViz. Let's see here. So what I wanted to do now is open it up for any questions that you may have from the beginning of the conversation, and even, you know, in Evan's part and through my part, and then also ask you what's going well and what isn't going well. So if you guys can use the chat function, tell me about, you know, what is going with well with LegendViz, what isn't going well. We'll start there, but first I'll answer Jim's question. Is dusk till dawn operation based on photocell, or does it always require a time clock? It's actually neither for the solar operation. So the solar operation, the dusk till dawn is configured and operating based off the voltage coming off the solar panel. So that 13-watt top-up pole, we are monitoring with the IWS controller the current voltage that controller is seeing from that solar panel. And that is how we're identifying in the solar configuration what time of day it is, i.e. should it be on at night. Now for the AC configuration, yes, we're using a photocell, but no, it does not require a time clock. So good question, Jim. But yeah, as I mentioned, please ask your questions in the chat. What's going well? What isn't going well? What additional questions do you have on the LegendViz technology? No questions, no comments? Good question, Jim. Yes, so LegendViz 1.5 is the expansion with the current Legends to the stop. LegendViz 2.0, we're going to coin it, is going to be just that. So the W11-2, the pedestrian symbol, is definitely a legend of interest. That's one of the second largest formats for the current blinker sign. So that will be something we're going to be looking to illuminate. Also the chevrons. The chevrons is another very valuable application for the LegendViz technology. Reason being is your vehicle's headlights do not hit all the chevrons in a curve. They only hit maybe 2 to 3 at max. So for those longer curves where you want to see the full duration of that curve, LegendViz, we believe it will be successful there as well. So exact timing, TBD, just hold tight from the TAPCO team. We want to get 1.5 done first this year, and then we'll be going on to 2.0. One of the things that we'll be up against there is just the illumination of a black symbol or black text, and working with our engineers to identify how we do that. So good question. It's on the radar. It's coming. Just a matter of when. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Rob and or Amanda to walk through the distributor sales campaign expectations. Rocky, on the APL approvals, how quickly can we typically supply a unit to our folks? Good question. So if you give us a heads up on our side, Evan and myself, we can get that demand in our system prepared for that unit sample that will be needed. I would say, at best case, probably 3 to 4 weeks. Worst case, probably 4 to 6 weeks. So we would just have to produce it depending on the configuration that's needed for testing and then get it en route, right? So get it shipped to the location. But as far as the 5 states that we have been APL approved, only one of them actually has required a sample. The other states, we just gave them data sheets. We filled out their APL process document, and that's all it took to get approved. So depends on the state, right? Some states require samples, some don't, but probably about 4 weeks plus or minus. All right. I'll turn it over to you, man.
All right. Sorry, I'm jumping in here a little bit late. This is Rob with Amanda, so I appreciate the time. Just kind of bring it home. We wanted to throw some incentives out there to push us to work a little bit closer together if possible. So kind of a 3-tier approach here. So we're going to ask for some help qualifying some targeted leads. I know some of that activity has already taken place. So for those that have, really appreciate that. For those that haven't, now's a great time. So we're looking for, if we can get 3 legitimate leads or targets, we'd like to throw you a little bit of a TAPCO swag there, right? Get you a TAPCO sweatshirt. So that'd be great to have that in the collection, I guess you could say, right? All we're looking for is just validation with our account managers or account executives. So it doesn't have to be anything super formal. There's no forms or nothing else. Just work with your TAPCO designated rep, and we'll get you the information and get you the sweatshirt ASAP. Take that to the next level and close the deal, which we know you're awesome at doing. And Brett, I don't know if you can see that customization on the Yeti, but that's just for you right there. But no, well, it'll be official. So the marketing team already scolded me because it's not official TAPCO branding, but we'll get you, for the close of a sale of 2 or more signs, we'll get you a TAPCO mug so you can think about us everywhere you go. And at the end, when we have you in town here in, I think it's mid-August, right?
Yep.
For the distributor that sells the most LegendViz signs, we're going to set a threshold of 7 there, which we think is pretty reasonable. That distributor would then get to take home one of those nice Blackstone flat top grills that I am so jealous to not have in my collection, but they look really awesome. So that's kind of the thought there, to get some activity going, give you some sweatshirts and some cups, and then for bringing the bacon home, so to speak, we'll give you the grill for the distributor who sells the most LegendViz signs. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but we wanted to offer up to make it a little bit fun, hopefully, right? Make it worth going after. And that's it.
Any other questions, comments? I know we have the chat feature on the side, so it's a little bit hard to speak, but I'll wait a minute. I know there's one question on the APL approvals. How quickly can we typically supply a unit to our folks? Like Nick said, lead time is 4 weeks. We do have a couple units in stock, so depending on what sign it is, it could be sooner. But work with either your distribution account manager or your account manager in your territory, and we can also help on the APL side. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, we really appreciate your time today. We will have another setup meeting here coming up later this week, just to kind of do a touch point. Your distribution account managers too are going to be doing biannual reviews. So look for that here over the next month and a half. So we'll go through where you're at numbers wise, opportunities, new products, things like that. And as always, if you have any additional questions, feel free to contact me directly.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.